If you have ever played Hollow Knight or attempted to play the game, you have likely experienced being lost to some extent. Being completely and utterly lost can cause immense frustration, and is likely the biggest reason players quit the game early. The reason you get lost is that the map design is awful and terrible. The level design is incredible on the other hand, if you don't get too lost. If you stay on a critical path, the experiences of exploration and discovery are incredible. If you get truly lost though, the experience of exploration and discovery collapses. And with it, the experience that makes Hollow Knight a fantastic game. While the level design is very good, it also allows the player to get lost. The world is both large and interconnected, like a maze. A maze with an enormous number of potential dead ends. Finding a dead end is of course expected in a game like this. Smashing your head against dead ends for half an hour and not making any progress is game breaking on the other hand. It should be the role of a map to guide the player towards an open end without requiring guides or brute force from the player when they are truly stuck. The purpose of a map is to serve as a navigation tool. In Hollow Knight, the primary use of the map is to navigate previously explored areas. It is only functional when you have explored the area fully. The map does not want to tell the player where to go. It is not a tool for exploration, which I think it should be. The map design is the worst aspect of Hollow Knight. There are three main problems with the map design. The first issue is that you need to find a cartographer to buy a map. This is annoying sometimes, because you can easily miss him and then have to go through the entire section of the map without a map. The second issue is that the map does not update automatically as you progress. The map only updates when the player rests on a bench. Benches are quite rare, so the map updates rarely. Which means that you cannot rely on your map being updated while you explore. The third issue is that the map is too vague and lacks the ability to add notes. If the map were very detailed, you obviously would not need notes or the ability to modify the map. But having a detailed map is not good when you want the player to explore by themselves. Having said that, the map is still too vague. For example, the giant veils of darkness you find that go from the top of the screen to the bottom are not shown on the map, even though they are giant obstacles that the player can't possibly miss. Having the vague map would have been fine if the player could edit the map and personalize it to a large extent. The player can add 4 different markers to the map, and that helps a lot, but it is far from enough. The markers are too vague. You can't tell what sort of obstacle you have marked on the map. You might need an upgrade, but what sort of marker represents that upgrade? There are lots of different types of upgrades. You might need an item to progress, but what sort of item? The location might be interesting, but why is the location interesting? You lack so much important contextual information with only the markers. In order to properly utilize these markers, you need to take notes as well. You can also take screenshots, but that is an equally annoying solution to the problem that exists outside of the game. Which is why having text-based markers would have been so much better. That combines the locations of the markers on the map with the context written in the text. Personalized notes add so much to the exploration. Breakable bottom indicates that I have a dead end that can open when I get the upgrade that can destroy the floor. Darkness reminds me that I need a light source. Wormhole and temple thing indicates locations of interests that I need to come back to at some point. Hard boss need upgrades indicate that I need upgrades to beat a difficult hidden boss. These notes at the given location adds so much personality and individuality to the map. It is not the game map that the developer made anymore, it is my map, my personal map. Adding notes on the map makes the player much more actively involved in the exploration, which I think creates an even better experience. While having notes would have been incredible, it is not a requirement to have a usable map. There are, however, 2 requirements I think you need to meet in order to have a functional map in Hollow Knight. 2 things that the game needs to implement to create a functional map. First, the player should not need to find a cartographer. They should either get the option to buy one when they enter a new area, or they should have a permanent map. Secondly, the map needs to update when you open it without the need to sit down on a bench. These fixes enable the player to mark the map immediately when they meet a dead end. It stops the required backtracking. You no longer need to clear the section before you find a map. You no longer have to backtrack to a bench to get the map to work. You don't need to waste time doing a chore. You can engage with the fun and good parts of the game instead of the bullshit. And crucially, these changes do not provide the player with a clear map that gives them all of the answers. The map is only given once you've initially explored the zone. Exploration would still create a vague map. Hollow Knight is a high quality game. The game has great environmental storytelling through gorgeous visuals and fantastic sound design. It has a smooth movement system that enables solid platforming. The combat system and enemy design are excellent. The lore of the world is fascinating. There is, in short, a lot to love about Hollow Knight. Yet, as you can tell from all of my whining about the map design, I seem to get significantly more lost than most people, which causes big gameplay issues. So where is this coming from? The level design utilizes clues to mark entrances to new areas or critical paths. These clues range from small torches in the background to new areas leading into the current one. You need to pay attention to these details and clues and go where they guide you. If you don't, you will get lost. The first reason you might miss the clues is that you don't have experience with 2D metroidvanias. You might not understand the significance of these clues. You might not even notice them because there is so much else that's going on that is new to you. The second reason you might miss the clues is that you have a different focus. You might be driven towards a goal. You might be curious about something else. And you don't want to be told what to do when you're focused on something else. Thirdly, you might not pay enough attention. You might be tired, you might have external distractions. You might not be in the mindset to look for clues. Your head might not be in the game, but somewhere else completely. There are a lot of reasons that a player can miss clues in the level design. And if they miss enough of these clues, the player will be lost. The game demands a certain knowledge base and attention to work. Most people will naturally be guided to a critical path by the level design if they pay attention. The level design is of such high quality that the map can be bad without destroying the experience for the majority of the players. I highly suggest Game Maker's Toolkit's video about the level design for an excellent explanation of how the level design works. Let me show you an example of how I got lost. When you beat the false Hollow Knight, the first real boss, you should acquire the first spell. You need this spell to progress further by unlocking the green path. I initially missed this as I went the wrong way when the path branched. Initially, I followed the correct path upwards that was marked by the torches in the background. But I wanted to open the door below before I continued. First of all, I was curious where that door led, and secondly, I wanted to unlock the door in case I had to come back at some point. But when I went through that bottom path, I realized where I was, and then I realized I was close to the surface, and I had a lot of geodes. I wanted to use those geodes, and not risk losing them in an unknown area. So I went to the surface to shop. And after I shopped, I took a break from the game, and that made me forget about a critical path. I then spent 15 minutes trying to figure out where to go next. I did not remember that I'd missed the pretty obvious critical path. Eventually, I randomly wandered back to the correct place and managed to get the necessary upgrade. This stupidity on my part highlights how easy it is to get lost if you're not used to the types of games or if you're somewhere else in your head, or if you just happen to forget about things. If you're not present and in the moment, it is so easy to get lost. Having tools to help stupid players like me would have been really nice. Having to keep track of everything in your head means that I can be less present in the moment and enjoy the moment-to-moment gameplay less. I always need to be worried about where to go next. I always need to remember where I can and cannot go. Having a functional map would have meant that I did not need to create a mental map in my head. That means that the mental effort is reduced, and I'm allowed to immerse myself more into the game. Hollow Knight is clearly a game made with a lot of love and effort. Even if I can never get to experience the game as it was intended, I can still see what is there. I can see the fantastic game on the other side of the fence I can never cross. Sometimes a small part of that experience gets through the fence and allows me to get a taste of the wonderful and fantastic experience that the game can provide. But I get lost too frequently. I don't have any tools that can help me progress or organize my journey. In hindsight, I wish I'd used pen and paper to make notes as I progressed instead of trying to rely on the map. I hope that my complaints and suggestions made sense. Thank you for watching.